It's time once again for the House Whisperer Show. Stay tuned for expert advice about maintaining your house from the roof to the basement and everything in between. Featuring professional home inspector Jack Milne, who tells us that every house has a story, and I bet he knows a lot of them. How you doing today, Jack?
I'm great, Barry. And you know, my summer mood is starting to swing into fall.
Oh, yeah.
I was watching the Weather Channel a few weeks ago, and they consider, I think it's called the meteorological, if I'm saying that right, and probably not, but fall starts September 1st. And I know just working over the past couple of weeks, I haven't really seen a drastic change. But I am optimistic, and I know the fall's around the corner. And to me, I love the fall because I survived the summer.
Oh, yeah.
And, as an inspector, I mean, we spend quality time in attics and outside and on roofs that just radiate the heat back to your body. And so I think fall is one of my most favorite months. But I also anticipate that winter's coming, too. So I have finally had the opportunity of shutting my air conditioning off after probably, again, one of the hottest and most humid summers in a long time. And, the lawn's starting to turn green again because it had been brown for a while. The weeds have been pulled because I think the only thing that grows when it's extremely hot are the weeds. And now it's getting to be time to sit back on your deck or your porch and realize that in a month we may have to prepare for winter storage. And, I know I did a segment right around Father's Day that we talked about building a garage. But I know as fall comes around, we start thinking about our personal possessions and where we might have to put them. And I know sometimes, especially if we have children, this stuff can tend to accumulate. And I know, and most of us know darn well that, when you first moved into your home, your car used to fit in the garage, but now with the children, the lawnmower, the leaf blower, the shovels, the picks, the weed whackers, the hedge trimmers, it's time to maybe consider alternative storage, which is the shed. So that's what today's topic is on. And I must say this topic really, again, started with an email. So I'm going to keep you suspended in mystery because before I kick in, of course, I always want to thank my sponsors. So today we're going to start with Burrow Exterminating. They do termite and wood-destroying insect inspection, of course, radon testing, and located out of Glenolden, Pennsylvania, good old Delaware County. You can reach out to Rob Bruno at 610-586-5640, and their website is burrowexterminating.com. On the closer to the Delaware Rivers, Pest Blaster. They're at 215-295-5555. They're involved with radon testing, mold testing, wood-destroying insect evaluations, as well as pest removal. And, folks, I don't know if it's the summer or not with how humid it's been, but I've been with Mike Cantor a bunch of times where they are asking for mold testing. So, again, I don't know if it's because of potential allergies or respiratory issues, or if it's just because it's been, it was so blasted hot, within the past several weeks. But, again, reach out to Mike Cantor. He does a beautiful job and very good company to deal with. Bucksmont Inspections, Rob Bowie. He's out of the Sellersville area, but he does service a lot of Bucks, Montgomery County areas, and does some parts of New Jersey. He's at 215-669-4213, and BucksmontInspections.com is their website. BrainFleshGear.com. I've been getting calls recently from Kevin Zollner, who's their executive director, and he says, Jack, the phones are ringing, so keep it going on the air. So I appreciate hearing from Kevin. And they do have an email, which is contact@brainfleshgear.com. And finally, Tri-County Inspection Company. I always hate to leave the best for the last, but it seems it works out that way. I think I'm blowing my own horn there, Barry. I apologize. But you can get our backgrounds at tcinspect.com, sample reports, get to know the inspector, get to know our backgrounds, because honestly, I don't think you're going to find anyone better who has the credentials that we do. And when you're buying a home or that investment property, you have to hire a professional, and we've been at it now for 30 years. So 215-295-2030 is our Bucks and Montgomery County numbers. The Lehigh Valley, 610-346-7880. If you find yourself up in North Jersey, 609-882-5188. Delaware County, 610-296-2004. And let's not forget my friends down there in South Jersey, which is 856-853-4224. So, as I always like to say after I go through that is please let the sponsors know that you heard their ad on the House Whisperer Show. I think it's really special. And, plus email me at thehousewhisperershow@gmail.com. I ask that you visit the archives. I think I'm up to 150-plus shows at thehousewhisperershow.com. And as you all know, podcasts are available at www.dbam.com. So visiting the email box was Jeremy. And he used this term, Jack, I'm in a pickle. And I don't know how he would fit in a pickle, and I didn't really want to ask him. But he said, I bought a house on a slab. My home inspector said that the worst thing to do is to store stuff in my attic. And my one-car garage is busting at the seams. I'm really not a shed guy, but I'm ready to do it. What advice can you offer? And I think, folks, we all kind of get there. So, Jeremy, welcome to the other side. You're not alone in your quest to look for additional storage space. If you have kids, what I find is that none of their stuff is small, and even your own possessions can overwhelm. But this is my advice. Number one, you have to check with your local municipality or your homeowner's insurance as to where a shed can fit, and if it must be a certain square footage. For example, the association will only allow an 8 by 10 or a 10 by 12 or a 12 by 14 size shed, and etc. I talked to a client the other day who had a 20 by 30 foot shed. To me, that's not a shed. That's a portable garage. But criteria is very important because they will set the limit of which you can construct. In Levittown, which covers many municipalities here in Pennsylvania, which includes Falls Township, Bristol Township, Middletown Township, just to name a few, are now requiring every homeowner who is selling their homes to remove and or relocate their sheds, their pools, and plantings that are along the rear fence line, since the sewer laterals are in this area. And they have to be left exposed for maintenance issues. This is a huge change for a community that was constructed post-World War II, and if you look at it, they're 50 and 60 years old, and this new mandate happened maybe about a year or so ago. So if you live in Levittown and you're thinking about a shed, the rules have changed. If you're moving from Levittown, the rules are worse. So I ask that you look at the ordinances. So bottom line, you have to do your homework. Now, in some municipalities, the shed may have to be at least 10 feet off each corner of your property line and cannot be installed in an easement and cannot be as big as a garage. So, Jeremy, you've done your homework. You can now place the shed next to your neighbor's fence, for example. But the question now becomes, do we pour a slab or do we set it on blocks? And I think that's a great question. Concrete means stability. The use of your impervious surface ratio may change because you're only allowed a certain square footage of concrete, let's say, and the rest has to be where water can be absorbed after heavy rain. And you're probably going to need a permit for pouring of the slab, which, of course, is going to be more permanent than stationary, but it's better in the long run. When the shed sits on grade or is raised on blocks, I find that critters can tend to take over and can burrow or make themselves at home under the shed. And as I think about this, skunks, groundhogs, opossums, woodchucks, and other large critters can take up residence. and I find the lattice may help, but now rabbits, squirrels, chipmunks, or other smaller creatures can live beneath your feet. So plywood as a base of the shed can eventually rot through time as well. And of course, if you're going to place anything heavy on plywood, you really got to think about that. So there's so many decisions, but what's next? And I'm going to tell you after our commercial break.
Okay, that is our cue to take a break, and we'll find out more about sheds with Jack Milne, the House Whisperer, at WWDB.
Boro Exterminating has been specializing in wood-destroying insect inspection and control for over 40 years, serving Philadelphia and the surrounding counties. All inspectors are state certified and ensure providing their clients with professional inspections and treatments. Boro not only performs conventional termite treatments, but also handles special services like historic buildings and homes with wells, creeks, or ponds. The client is assured that all treatments will be performed safely when you hire Boro to do the work. They also provide radon testing in their service area. Boro's full-time office staff is available to help you schedule an appointment. Just call 610-586-5640 or send an email request to boroinspects@verizon.net. That's 610-586-5640 or email at boroinspects@verizon.net.
Specially created t-shirts by BrainFlushGear.com offer the extreme sports enthusiast an opportunity to have a clothing line available that suits their sport. BrainFlushGear.com understands that when we get the moment where we can jump on our motorcycles, wave runners, surfboards, snowmobiles, or skateboards, it can be priceless. They offer custom artwork including silk screening, transfers, and embroidery. Speak to one of their consultants today and they'll help you create your own Brain Flush. Visit BrainFlushGear.com or email them at contact@BrainFlushGear.com.
For your septic inspection and testing needs, please consider Bucksmont Inspections. They've been serving the Bucks and Montgomery County areas for over 15 years. As members of the Pennsylvania Septic Management Association, the Pennsylvania Association of Sewage Enforcement Officers, and the Pennsylvania Association for Professional Soil Scientists, Bucksmont Inspections can inspect your existing septic system or test for your new septic system placement. Please call Rob Bowie at 215-669-4213 and say you heard their ad on the House Whisperers show.
Tri-County Inspection Company has been providing professional home inspections, commercial inspections, and historic property evaluations for over 30 years. For all of your real estate transactions, call Tri-County Inspections at 215-295-2030. For their New Jersey clientele, call 856-853-4224. Tri-County Inspection Company covers 13 counties, serving both New Jersey and Pennsylvania. They have performed inspections for over 70,000 clients and are members of the American Society of Home Inspectors, as well as the Pennsylvania Home Inspectors Coalition. They are licensed in both Philadelphia and New Jersey. Call 215-295-2030 or 856-853-4224.
As the weather gets cooler and the temperatures drop, the bugs might slow down, but the rodents don't stop. Mice and rats begin to invade homes during the fall and winter months, looking for food, warmth, and a comfortable place to nest. Don't wait for pesky rodents to invade your home. Fight back. Have your home baited and ready for their attack with Pest Blaster. Whether preventative or a full-blown infestation, give Pest Blaster a call at 215-295-5555 and they can discuss the solution to your problem. They also offer humane animal removal services for a wide variety of wild animals, damage repairs, and cleanups. Call them today at 215-295-5555 or check them out at pestblaster.com, servicing both New Jersey and Pennsylvania. Pest Blaster, 215-295-5555 or pestblaster.com for all your pest control needs.
Our house is a very, very, very fine house.
Okay, we are back with Jack Milne, the house whisperer, everything you want to know about sheds and maybe didn't ask. But Jack is here to answer. So, Jack, let's get back to you.
Well, thank you very much, Barry. And today's segment, I have to thank Jeremy, but unfortunately, he has a dilemma. So I'm thanking Jeremy for his dilemma. and I think we've all been in this situation where we have too much stuff and he needs a shed. And let's move on to my suggestion. I always urge that you form and pour a shed. And it can be easily done by most homeowners. You'll need, bags of 80-pound cement. You should use at least 2x8s to form the barrier. It should be pressure treated. It should be set up with stakes so you can tell that everything is square. Make sure you run your tape from corner to corner to verify that fact, and make sure it's level. Okay, it's got to be level because, man, once you pour this stuff and it's set, you can't change it. So I would also give you the advice of my father-in-law. Build a shed bigger than what you may need, as you only have one shot, and believe me, you'll fill it. If you have to do what I call a prefab unit, you want to find out, is it going to be delivered as a shed, or is it going to be built on site? And I think this becomes an important question, especially if a big truck has to drop it off. And some of these sheds today are what we call panelized, where it comes in pieces. So you'll have the gable walls, you have the front, the rear, and then you have the rafters and the ceiling joists. And usually these can be constructed over a long weekend, and you may be able to do it yourself. But the company that you buy the shed from can also construct it for you, but of course there's going to be an additional cost involved. And usually I find that these sheds consist of 3/4-inch plywood for the floor, 2x3s for the exterior walls and gables, 2x4s for the rafters. The exterior finish is typically what we call T111, which is an exterior-grade plywood, which has a lifespan of about 15 years, and normally lightweight shingles that last about 20 years. A fairly inexpensive window can be offered, what I call an awning window, which is your old-style down-the-beach crank-type windows, and mostly barn-style doors where they're joined in the center and hinged on both ends, and they open up like a barn. But I also find that costs and options can vary, so you have to make sure that you can ask a lot of questions. And I think the most important thing is what are you going to load into the shed? A 3-foot door will not fit a tractor, but a 6-foot door will. And of course, you're going to have to possibly construct a ramp. And what are you going to make the ramp out of? Is it going to be topsoil and maybe pavers like the old bank barns of the 17 and 1800s? If you're going to drive a tractor over it, typically can't be what I would call framing lumber, 2x4s, 2x6s, and plywood, because in time, as that rots, you may drop a wheel through that plywood. So you really have to think about what you're going to store. That way you can go in and get all your questions answered and be ready to go. Option 2 is to build it yourself. And I would say that if you talk to a carpenter or a general contractor and build it to the specs that you want, instead of 2x3s on exterior walls, you'd be using 2x4s. And you can make it tall enough that you can stand erect and not stoop over. You can bring electricity in and provide some overhead lighting and maybe a few GFCI-rated receptacles. So there's not only a shed, but it's something that can become more what I would call general use. Again, my question is, can you fit a tractor in the future? What are you going to do on the exterior? Are you going to make it strong enough that you want to hang a canoe on the rear side? Believe me, I've had that question. And all those tools, how can I organize them? If it's tall enough, is there enough space that I could generate some attic storage? And I did that when I built my shed. I have a small hatch, and I can put those things that I hopefully never need up there, but if I do, they're there. And it could be small, but again, it is usable. And you can put things like shingles and siding up there. Now, if you build it yourself, you can make it look like your home. And I think a shed that matches your house really kind of ties into the property. And you can match your siding. You can match the shingle that's on your home with the type and color. And, why not a 7-by-7-foot overhead garage door on the gable end? So you can drive your tractor in, roll in the snowblower. You can add spotlights, door lights, and the options are just kind of rolling off my tongue. And when it was my turn to build my shed, I did pour the pad. I used anchor bolts to drop the pressure-treated plates and did my 2x4 walls. I used plywood exterior sheathing in lieu of oriented strand board, which is particle board, and $1 cheaper. But I'm telling you, anyone who's building these sheds today, prefab, are using your cheaper materials. And again, I did the roof and I did my siding to match my home. And I think that's the best part, because it looks like it belongs on the property, and it wasn't an afterthought. And like I said, my father-in-law said, build it larger than what you need, and you can always find a use for the space. And I don't think there's anything better than having the tractor and the push mower, literally the hard top for my Jeep, my son's motorcycle, and the pedal bikes. They're all in the shed. And what it does is it reopened up my garage where I can open my car doors without the thought of hitting the walls and the kids' toys or the tools. And I secure the shed with a steel door, so I have an entry door in lieu, and as well as, let's say, the overhead garage door. I do have windows too small for any interested person to entry, and again, I put that overhead garage door on. Pavers lead from my driveway to the overhead door, so I can drive the tractor in and out without any fear of getting dirt in the tires. Snow. It's very easy to clear. And again, I have spotlights on my upper gables, that I can turn on as I need them. I have a basketball net in front of the shed, so it's great for the kids. But I have a sensor on the other side of the shed that'll kick on in the dark. So one thing about sheds, folks, the options are really limitless. And if you build it yourself, the prices may be slightly more than the pre-manufactured type. But as I always tell my clients, when they buy a home, do it once and do it right. And then you can really sit back and enjoy, the fruit of your labors. Doing it wrong the first time costs 2.5 times more to do it the second time. And because if you think about it, if it's too small or it's not quite right, or if it begins to rot, you've got to tear it down. You've got to pay for the removal in the dumpster. And then you have to pay for the reconstruction, not only of the shed, but anything that you want to do, of course, within your home, too. So bottom line, do your homework, plan it out, and as you know me, donate anything that you don't need with the clean under of your garage. Build the shed, plan for the beer fridge, because I have to have one, and relax, because your home space just got bigger, and so did your garage. So, Barry, any thoughts?
Well, let me ask you this, Jack. If you're like I am, and you need an electrician to change a light bulb and have no ability to build my own shed, am I better off, if I want to get a shed, am I better off having somebody come over and build it from scratch, or getting a prefab one and having somebody put it together?
Well, I think, again, it depends on your budget. I think it would probably cost maybe 10 to 15% more to build it on your own. But again, I think the options more or less outweigh the cost expenditure. But estimates are free, and granted, the contractor may give you a roundabout number. But for example, folks, when I built my shed, and being as anal retentive as I am, which is a great home inspector trait, when I put the siding on my house back in the 90s, the vinyl-coated aluminum siding that I used cost me $100 a square. When I built the shed about, 5-6 years ago, that same siding went up to $400 a square. So just to cover the shed cost me $1,200.
Wow.
Yeah. So, there's advantages, I think, of both. If you need it right away, it's easy to do. If you want to make it permanent, I would pour the slab so you make sure you don't get the critter entry. If you plan to stay within your home for an extended period of time like I am, I would absolutely build it myself because, again, the options are limitless, where you may not have all these options for the guy who builds the sheds along the highways.
Well, I'll tell you what, if I'm going to do it, I may give you a call to come on over and help me.
No problem.
I mean, you're the guy who knows, ground up. Well, we are just about out of time, but I was just thinking another good use for the shed is if you get in trouble with your wife, it's a good place to hang out.
Well, that's why you put the beer fridge out there.
Oh, yeah.
But again, I think the other reason, too, is I do a lot of work around my house, and having that refrigerator, and of course I'm joking about the beer, but only partially, but it's a good place to keep, some snacks or to keep your water bottles. I often soak a rag, on those really hot days, and I put it in the refrigerator and wrap it around my neck, and I'll tell you what, folks, that brings your core temperature down tremendously. Where maybe just a hat and a handkerchief, it may keep the sweat down, but if you dampen a rag or a handkerchief and you put it in your refrigerator the night before and you use it that day, I'll tell you what, it brings your core temperature down probably about 8 to 10 degrees, and it keeps you working a little bit harder.
Well, that's some good advice, and we got to go, so give you a chance to say your goodbyes for today.
Well, Barry, as I always like to say, as it is Sunday, please spend time with friends and family, and I look forward to talking to everyone again next week on the House Whisperer Show.
All right, I'll see you in the shed. And tune in again next week, everyone, for another edition of the House Whisperer Show with professional home inspector Jack Milne. And you can listen to previous programs, or if you have any questions, visit thehousewhisperershow.com. This is Barry Reisman, and thank you for listening to WWDB and WWDBAM.com. Talk to you next Sunday morning.